Hey everybody, this is Raul for Bass Musician Magazine, and today we have the great honor and pleasure of speaking with bassist, educator, blogger, and author, a very, very busy Ariane Cap. Thank you for spending time with us today, Ariane. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing really well, Raul. Thank you so much for having me.
Excellent, excellent.
Fabulous to be here with Bass Musician Magazine, which I read and love, so thank you.
Thank you so much for your support. Well, we've gathered today at particularly, not because there's not a lot that we can talk about, because there is, but I really want to focus on your new book that you have out, Music Theory for the Bass Player.
I'll hold it up for you here, this way.
There we go. There we go.
Yeah.
Excellent.
It's been out for a while. I published it in 2015, and it is a let me hold up the new cover here, actually. It has, here. So here it is. And it has this new thing here, which shows you that it comes with 89 videos. I felt I wanted to make that a little more prominent as it already was, so make sure that people find that it comes with the videos. And yeah, it was published in 2015, and it's been an amazing journey for me since then. So it has really enabled me. The reason why I wrote it was that I didn't find anything like it on the market. And I wanted to, in my own teaching, because I do a ton of teaching and have for a long time, and I love it, I wanted to have something to point to, because I found myself drawing up the same ideas student after student. So I started to sort of put it together in a system. And then I started looking for a book that does what this book does, and I couldn't find it. And what this book does is it teaches music theory without teaching reading at the same time. So typically when you have a bass player who wants to go a little bit deeper into, well, this riff that I'm playing, what really is that? Or when I see a certain chord symbol, how can I effectively create a groove out of that information? C7, what have you, sharp 9, sharp 11, what is that? And so I wanted to provide that, but typically you go to a music theory book, and the first page is, okay, this is a treble clef, this is a bass clef, this is a whole note, this is a half note. And by page 10, you're reading arpeggios and scales and what have you. And I just felt that is oftentimes not how bass players, especially if they've played for a while, tick, because they're used to shapes. They know shapes, they know patterns, and they know sounds. Mm-hmm. So my approach was rather to go, look, this thing that you just did, that's a pentatonic. This thing that you just did and know well, that's a half step. You can finger it like this and like this and like this, So my goal was to teach music theory while not teaching reading at the same time. It does have a little bit of notation in it. It always has tab as well, and those are just examples. The meat of the book really are these fretboard diagrams where I teach, just finding a good example, where I'm teaching through showing it to you on the fretboard. So the idea being, the fretboard, the layout, the shapes, and I want to show you how to, make that visually, accessible, what you already know by feeling it on the fretboard. Not that reading is not a vital skill. Most certainly it is. And, depending on your goals, it might be more or less important, but I am a big promoter of saying learn to read. But it's a different book. And it's a different skill, and they're different exercises. And so I wanted this to be just music theory laid out for the bass player on the fretboard. And while I was doing that, I discovered, well, as we are talking about shapes, you might want to talk about fingering as well, because that would be a missed opportunity to talk about, how to, finger certain intervals or triads or chords or what have you, and not talk about the best fingering. And when you're talking about fingering, you want to talk about technique. So that's why I tagged on a big chapter on what I consider good and consistent and economic bass technique. Gotcha. So that's how I got to, it took me 3 years to write, and it's like 187 or something pages, and it has test your understanding questions in it that are, designed to make you think, to really test, do you know this stuff, because like everything, music theory needs to be practiced. It's not something that if I ask somebody, well, what's a major third up from C? Well, everybody might go E. But if I do that in D flat, it might take you just a split second longer. And in music, we don't have that split second, So you want to practice it, and you want to have it under your fingers. And that was the goal with this book. So.
Well, and I find I'm so glad that as you're expanding on this, because I think many times I look at music as a language.
Yes.
And as such, if you look how we develop into learning language, we learn language first, and then as we get older, we learn the details and the structures, and if you will, the linguistic theory.
Yes.
We learn
Yeah.
grammar, we learn spelling, we learn handwriting, we learn our technique and all this. And I think that with music, many times people will tend to go the same direction because it can lend itself. You can hear it, then you go, okay, I can duplicate that, or I'll mimic, which is what you do linguistically.
In the beginning, yes. And I mean, there are plenty of amazing musicians who don't know music theory at all. I mean, I've personally, some of my biggest heroes, you see the way they communicate and the way they talk, they don't know the name for this stuff, right? But what they have had some sort of exposure or experience, typically since they were very, very little, where they were able to assimilate that in a way where I'm going to say they don't need it for this amazing stuff they do. I'm not going to say they wouldn't benefit from it. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. But for just benefit from knowing the names of stuff, because they clearly are playing it. They're using it. You hear it. They got that stuff down. But I have often found that people who really want to learn, and at an age where they are maybe not, that young and exposed to it so they can assimilate it. And typically these people have a story of playing 10 hours a day, when they were little or for a long period of time. And oftentimes people don't have that. So I find that this conscious mind that can comprehend, okay, this is a little building block, and if we put it together this way, then we get this kind of chord. And we like that. Our brains like that, and we learn very effectively that way, So I oftentimes, have these conversations where people go, well, if I know music theory, won't that kill my creativity because such and such never knew music theory, And I've said, well, they might not have the names for it, but they clearly have it under their fingers. They clearly are, using it. Or maybe they're playing a style where they don't need, certain types of advanced music theory. It's a possibility too, and they're able to make a living and make and do amazing stuff with what they have. There's totally validity in that. So it just depends on what somebody's goals are. But I find knowing music theory, that's a hugely enriching thing because you know the names for stuff. You can put things together in different ways. And I find it hugely creative, too. One thing that I did when the book was done is, I got a lot of emails from people and who were saying, this is great, but it's hard for me to read a book. I mean, seriously, I have little time and you were very in detailed and in depth. And is there a way you can help me through the book? And so I created a course that is a course that streams online that uses the book but goes way beyond it. Goes into groove creation using the material and goes into what you can do with that stuff. And I do it in all keys, and I do it all across the fretboard, and we do all sorts of really wacky stuff with it, and just sort of like use it, do it, and practice it. Because as I said, music theory is something that needs to be practiced. You have to have it under your finger. Just going through it once and saying, oh, okay, that's a first inversion of a whatever chord. You need to do it, you need to hear it, and you need to practice it. And that's what I did with that companion course. So the book is a standalone resource, and a lot of people just read the book and get a ton out of it. And I also have some people who say, I want to go beyond that. Show me what to do with this and how I can, and so this is it's a long course. It's 20 units long, and most people take about a unit every other week, and they can take it at their own speed. But I really wanted to provide something as comprehensive and fun and, educating as possible using music theory. And a lot of the feedback that I'm getting is like, wow, this has really ignited my creativity. This has enabled me to do stuff that, with this material I never knew. Now I know what I'm doing, and now I'm actually using the correct pentatonic and not just some so sort of box shape, that sort of idea. So I think it's a hugely fun prospect to talk about music theory and go into it. It has certainly informed my own playing hugely, and it's something that is enriching your creativity rather than stifling it. So
sure. Well, and so many times for anybody to be able to teach anything, it is many times something that will enlighten their own understanding of the subject, because it's like, how do I process this and digest it to make it so somebody else can grasp it? And
Sure.
I think sometimes when questions do come up, that you go, well, that's actually a pretty good question. I hadn't thought of it that way, and then you kind of make adjustments. And so having interaction with real students,
Absolutely.
guiding you into doing this, and that is actually one of the answers. I get so many requests from bassists around the world, like, I need a teacher, and the first thing I tell them is, try to find somebody near you to begin with, because you need a real person. Even though you can learn things from a book, you can learn things from a video, but a lot of times, even with the basics of position, if you're holding your hand wrong, a teacher will say, hey, wait, your thumb doesn't hang on top of the fretboard, it needs to go behind it.
Yes, exactly.
You know, because it's a very narrow fretboard, I can hang my thumb over the top and I can still play. So I need a little direction. However, I think there's a huge demand for something like this too, because if you are past just starting, and as you said, there's a lot of musicians that have a lot of practical experience, but and I tend to fall in this category where I look at theory and stuff as like, oh, that's going to be so much work. I don't have time to do the work. I want to just enjoy playing, or I just want
to learn songs.
I just want to do the songs. And I think that's an easy out. But if there is something that is accessible and interactive and engaging, and you can pick out the pearls and go, well, it's not as regimented textbook. And as you said, I mean, I think I as many people, when you continuously start, and it's not that it's not important, the reading. But again, if you're going to be playing in Broadway shows, if you're going to be sharing music with other musicians, having the common language, I mean, it's like written language. I mean, how long did human beings wander around the face of the planet before they could write and share information? I mean, we marvel at cave drawings in France and the beginning of, okay, I have something I saw, I want to share it with somebody. But they communicated before they were drawing on the walls. And so, again, I think it's the musical evolution and being able to interact and share those things with other musicians. And I know that a lot of people have looked at tablature as a kind of a cop-out. Like, oh, I don't need to know how to read music because you can show me where the notes are. And I'll figure out the time. When it's a whole note or a quarter note, I'll figure it out because it'll fit in the song, so.
Well, I have found that exactly agree with you. I think a lot of people find they reach a ceiling with that approach, and they kind of get frustrated because they realize I can copy things okay, but I can't make up my own stuff. And if I wanted to go out and do my own fill, or if I wanted to solo, what do I do then, And so a lot of people really get interested. How does this work? How does this interact? And they hear it sort of, kind of, but maybe not really. And they want clarity, and they want to sort of decode the language of music, And as you were mentioning students, so I mean, I really have to say this book was so informed by the questions of my students, by the typical stumbling blocks that they would have, by the typical quests and queries that they would want. I mean, I have to hugely credit my students for holding my feet to the fire, asking great questions, really, really demanding clarity from me. And I couldn't have done it without, all these many students that I've done. And that's really who I wrote it for. So.
Excellent. And now there's a poster. Tell us about the poster. What's
So I have the first print here, which is the other big thing is on the truck as we speak. So this doesn't have everything on it, but almost. So what I did when as I keep saying, music theory needs to be practiced. You can't just read it in a book once and then, sort of forget about it. Oh yeah, I know inversions because I read that in a book. And then, hence the course and hence now also this poster. Mm-hmm. There are certain things we need to sort of remind ourselves over and over. And so I came up with this idea to just create something that's visually really appealing and as comprehensive as possible with the most important stuff, mm-hmm. And sort of to have it as a resource to hang up in your practice room. And so as you see, it has intervals and they're inversions, and I came up with this new thing that's not on here yet, but the interval formula. So I'm really excited to share that when it's out. And I'm creating a website with it that helps you to say, how do I use this? So I hang this on my wall. Is this going to help me stare at the wall more effectively, so to speak? No, I actually really want you to have something to do with it. So I'm creating a website that is referenced up here, and people can go there and say, well, how can I use this? Maybe for a minute of theory every day, because that's all it needs. We don't need to sit with a book or something for hours. Just need to jog our memory and keep certain things in mind. Do it in this key one day and in another key the next day, and that's all, And so, yeah, as you see, it's got all the intervals laid out. It's got all the triads and chords. It's easy to forget what's the difference between a C major 7 and a C major, what's a C7 and what's the C with the little degree sign and the slash through and all of that stuff. So that's all on here, including, which I'm really proud of, how it sounds. Because, you don't want to just be able to read back from the chart, oh, it's supposed to be this and that. You also want to be able to create it. So when you write your own songs, well, this spot needs a little bit of attention. So I'm going to, use it as something that has, a sound quality as described here. So it really is, I think, unique. You often see these kind of charts with what is it, but I also I explain it. Why is it called the way it's called? And how does it sound? What's the real name of it, and how's it built, And since you know all the intervals from here, this is kind of like a logical suggestion. And then I'm going into scales. A lot of people know their scales by going whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half. Mm-hmm. That's a method that, to me, if you need to know if a certain note is in a scale or not, like this, because the beat keeps going, right? I can't go, hang on a second, whole, half. I mean, it's just, to me, that method is just really fraught with mistakes because it's easy to miscount and it doesn't tell me anything about every single note in the scale. So my method is, I always want to know how every single note in a scale relates to the root. So I always teach scales by playing the root in between. And I've written that out here for major and minor with good fingering and with the explanation why I think that's important and how that helps you when you are like improvising or grooving to keep every single note in relationship into the root in your mind. Because if you practice it this way, you will know. And then you will know, well, now I'm playing the 5 or now I'm playing the 6. And that gives you information about the sound of the thing. Gotcha. So I'll know if you practice it this way, you'll go, oh, the 6 has kind of like a little mild sound, The 5 is in the chord, so it's going to sound stable. The root's going to be obviously the root, so you get an idea and you don't have to deal with this whole half counting all the time. Gotcha. And then I put in pentatonics just because they're so important for us. So what they are, and if you got pentatonics, you got the blues scale, major blues scale, minor blues scale. Then I rolled out the blues, just a formula that I like to teach. I say the blues is the 411 of music. Mm-hmm. I learned that from Doug Goodkin, who does jazz with little kids on Orff instruments. And I just found that so brilliant. So the blues is the 411 of music. It's 1, 411, 4, 411, 5, 411. So it's a really good way to remember. This is called the quick change blues. So not all of them are like that, but it's a good structure. And then I got the modes. And again, I like shortcuts. I like, ways of bringing maybe complex things, making them as simple as possible. And, the modes, as far as I'm concerned, there's major and minor modes. And then there's one that's major that sounds like major. That's obviously Ionian. And then there's major that sounds unusual on the bottom, well, that's Lydian, and then there's major that sounds unusual on the top, well, that's Mixolydian, and then you have the same with minor. You have one that that's the minor scale, and then you have one that sounds unusual on the bottom, and one that sounds unusual on top, and then you have one that sounds unusual on the bottom and the top, and that's Locrian. So I like to, bring things down to a manageable level, to something that you can relate to. And again, always build on something that you already know, So that's my goal.
Excellent. And with the videos,
yes.
How are those tied in as one goes through the book?
So the book comes with 89 videos, and thanks, that's a great question. And in the book, in the new edition, we have, and that should be, by the way, sometimes I get emails, people are confused what's on sale. If you go on Amazon, and actually everywhere you go, that should be the one that's for sale. So I'm self-published, so I have, control over certain things, not so much over others, but this is the book that's out. It will say published 2015, because that's the original copyright date. So, but that is especially if you have this on the cover, then you got the latest. And so within this newest print, I refer to I have the little video icons right there, so you can easily find it. And they stream on my website. You can go there. It's you can either, if you want to be real fancy and techie, you can scan this, or you can just go to my website and scroll down a little bit. You'll see the video icon. It requires a one-time registration, just with email and password, username, that sort of thing. But then they are all laid out there for you with all 89 of them. They're typically pretty short. They just demonstrate what I do in that particular spot. And people find them hugely helpful. So it's just, something like this, when you see somebody do it, you see the fretboard, you see how it relates, it really hooks it in your memory. So, and that comes with the book. And then separate from that is the 20-unit course, which is also available on my website, and that streams online. People can sign up either with a monthly sign up or with a one-time upfront payment. And people love it. That really goes way beyond just the book. It's about how do we use that stuff, create your own grooves. I have lots of games. We do analysis of songs. So each part of the course is broken down in 7 different areas. Part of it is an assignment to read the book, because that was the original idea behind it, because people were saying, can you take me by the hand? Oh, how much should I read per day? How much should I, And so that was part of it. So there's always an intro section that says, read this and watch these videos from the book. And then we're going to use it. And we're going to, there's a creative part, there's an analysis part of songs where we, look at how this stuff is used in songs and that sort of thing. And lots of note finding. We do some things that I talk about in the book, like the note finder is a technique that I use to help you get the fretboard down. And I do it with you on the video, and you can just jump in, and there are some creative ideas to make it fun and interactive. And by the end of that course, you'll know how to create your own grooves. I mean, that's a side effect of it, so.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And just so people know, what's the best link for people to look to find this? I've got ArianeCap.com.
No, that's actually not the best one. That's my musician identity. It's ariSpaceblog.com.
Gotcha.
That's where all that stuff happens. And if I have lots of free videos out there as well, and people are welcome to cruise around there and see, to get a feel for the quality of the stuff I put out. And before they, go into the course or anything like that. And the videos that come with the book, they're free. So all you need to do is sign up, and then you're in. So there's a lot of resources out that people can look at. And
very cool. And then finding the book itself, you mentioned Amazon, or can they go through your page?
Yes,
there is
ariSpaceblog.com. There's a link. I'm personally, being an indie musician, I support indie bookstores. So there's a link there to indiebound.com. Also for international folks, sometimes local Amazons still charge a lot of shipping depending on what your closest Amazon is. But if you have Prime, obviously you get free shipping. But international folks can get the book at thebookdepository.com. I think it's bookdepository.com or the Book Depository, I'm not sure. But they have free shipping worldwide, so people have access to it that way. And I just want to say I've been blown away by the support and interest, and especially from other colleagues who I look up to. They are beginning to use the book in schools and testing it for their courses, and it's just been phenomenal. So I'm really honored, and I listen to feedback. So people write me emails all the time. What did you mean on that page? What, and I'm always looking. Well, could I do this better? And this is really, I want this to be for the students. So.
Got you. And the poster is going to be available when?
Well, I'm taking pre-sales now, and right now I swear my whole house is full of shipping tubes right now because I'm still, it's a learning curve. How do you do shipping and international? There's so much to learn, so I'm still in the middle of that. Right now, we're taking them a little cheaper. The price will probably go up. Right now, it's $24.95. If you are in the U.S., domestic shipping is free. If you want it a little faster, there's a $5 shipping charge. If you are international, unfortunately, shipping right now is crazy. It's almost as much as the poster itself. Mm-hmm. The trick around that, though, is up to 5 posters ship for the same price. And if you have a buddy, if you have colleagues who will want this as well, then a lot of people have been doing that. I've been seeing a lot of poster orders for 2, 3, or 4 posters in a tube, and they ship for the same price, and then the shipping costs really drop down. So, but it will be available on Amazon, and I'm looking at all sorts of ways to make it cheaper. If I find ways for shipping to be cheaper before I actually ship them, I will give everybody that money back, because this is about making it a pre-sale. But the price of the poster will go up itself as well. So, yeah. Hopefully, I'll have all the channels sorted out soon.
Very,
a poster's a difficult thing to ship. I found that it's because you need a nice tube, and the quality of the print is so well done. I don't want to fold it up or anything like that, and that makes shipping, unfortunately, a little pricey. So
yeah, I think that people don't realize how difficult it is sometimes to transport things that have an unusual shape until you're forced with it. We came across some artwork when we were traveling, and then we had to try to find a tube to get it back, and it was a real
save. Yeah, exactly.
A real project. So anyway, so that I don't forget, and I know that I'm really excited about the book, I'm really excited about the poster and the videos. I think this is a fabulous thing. Definitely, we want people to not only see it themselves, but spread the word.
Yes, thank you.
And kind of share that information. And this comes at a great time where I myself want to do this. Just listening to you, I'm going. I think I want to get involved with this and play. So if you see my email come up, you go, oh look, not like I've got a lot of time, but I want to. I'm thinking this could be very exciting.
Well, and I really get this from a lot of people. I mean, I have some students who are academic and who want to become professional and that sort of thing. But a lot of people just have been playing maybe for many, many years, and they have maybe a half hour or an hour a day. Mm-hmm. And my thing is, you don't have to practice 5 hours a day to get somewhere, And I understand when we're tired. And so this is sort of the idea I had also behind the course. You come home, you have 20 minutes, you want to use a productive time with your bass, and sort of pop in one of those technique videos. I'll do it with you. I'm sitting there with you, and I'll just, walk you through it and cheer you on. And, just really, I don't believe you have to practice hours and hours on end. If you practice with good focus, if you practice with, if you practice well laid out, systematic stuff, not just random, a song here or a song there. We know we can do that for a long time and not really get better. We're moving our fingers a little bit, but we don't emerge from such a practice session going, okay, this is what I learned today, and I can pinpoint, So I learned to play my D flat together with the fifth on top of it all over the bass. That's a good goal to have. That's a good thing to practice, and if we do that today, we do it in D flat. Next week, we're going to do it in G, and that sort of idea.
Sure. Well, so, and as I see it, I think it could be a real boon for a lot of working musicians that may be kind of spending their time, if they're touring, they're on the road, they're couch surfing.
Right.
They're hard pressed to go, I can be involved in a formal process right now. It would be a good way to continue to grow and enrich what they bring to, if they don't bring it to their music, because I think all of us have heard, My teacher had told me a story that he had auditioned for a band and he really wanted to impress the director, and so he played some scale or did some embellishment, and the director stopped him and says, that thing you did, and he was expecting some praise because he had done something very interesting, and the guy's like, don't do that. I just want the groove. I just want the bass notes. I just want the groove. Don't do that other stuff. I'm not interested. So it may not be something that you use right away, but as you develop more music and more tunes and more things, I think that is certainly going to do a whole lot to enrich your creativity and your music and all of that. So, I think it's a tremendous idea, and I encourage people to contact you and find out more and get this and work with it and give it a whirl. Now, we've talked a lot about the book and the poster, but also I would be greatly remiss if we don't talk about your new bass. Because
my baby back there.
There we go.
I'm super happy with this bass. So her name is Blue, obviously. And Gerald Marleux built this for me and gave it to me at the NAMM show this year. And I have been playing Gerald's basses for almost as long as I've been playing bass. I'm originally from Europe, so German are the neighbors of Austria. And I came across Gerald when he was really young still. He had just had inherited a workshop to build, and he had been learning to build these old instruments, and the master passed away and gave him the workshop, and he built it into this incredible, bass empire now, I want to say, of these beautiful instruments. And so my first one had, I think, serial number 100 something, wow. And this one is now in the thousands. So I'm just super happy with it. It's a 5-string concert, and he just did a beautiful job.
That is lovely. Yeah. So I'm going to guess active.
Well, it's got passive pickups, active electronics, and I have actually the programmable electronics. So you can pick and choose what you want, but this one is really hip because I have this flip switch here. If it's in this position, then I can dial in highs, mids, and lows in terms of which frequency band I want. So I can use low highs, medium highs, high highs. And I can set sort of a combination of which frequencies I want. Let's say I want these kind of mids and these kind of lows, and then I program it in. And with this flip switch, it's set. So it will remember what this is. And now when I push this down, I can fine tune how much of that frequency that I just selected I want. So depending on where this flip switch is, basically either I'm programming it, or I am telling it which frequencies to hold in mind, or I'm telling it how much of that I want. So it's a pretty neat way for me to have a lot of control over my tone output.
Very cool.
So yeah.
And I noticed 5-string. I know we have the constant debate over more than 4 strings.
Whatever the song demands. I mean, really, I have 4 strings, 5 strings, 6-string. I know not to show up to certain auditions with my 6-string. Mm-hmm. I know to show up with the 4-string. I'm always a little bit disappointed when people, say, oh, that's the wrong kind of bass, or that means XYZ about you, because people can really be flexible enough to understand a 4-string demands that sort of sound, that sort of idea, and I play 4-string where it's asked for, and I play 5-string when I, usually most of my grooving stuff, and I play 6-string in my duo because there I need a ton of chords, and I need that 6-string, and I need the range, and so there's a reason for that, and people can be flexible enough to do all things, but I totally get it that some situations require a 4-string and should not have a 5 or 6, so and should have a certain sound also, some require. You need a Fender sound, and that's absolutely legit. So, but that doesn't mean I can't love this baby.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I prefer 5-string myself. Again, the low B, it just it vibrates right in the center of my chest. So yeah, I have 4 strings, but I like it. And lately, as we've talked to a lot of people that are playing in the pits on Broadway shows,
Mm-hmm.
it's called for. Those are the notes that are written, and that's what they
Yeah,
need. And so,
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's does the job, and it's their voice. Well,
Yeah.
Ariane, thank you so much for taking time from your busy schedule.
Oh, Raul,
People,
it's been a pleasure.
people, you need to check all of this out for more information. AriasBassBlog.com. I'll make sure I
Yeah.
include that both under the screen as I edit this out so people can see it, but it'll be in the credits as well. It's just the beginning, but I think it's great exposure to something that is a very wonderful piece of work and hopefully will be very helpful to many of our bass brothers and sisters. So,
Well, thank you so much, Roland. I just want to say thank you and Val and everybody on your team for everything you guys do. So I love your magazine and you keep us all connected and that's just a wonderful thing. So thank you.
It's our pleasure and we will continue to do that. And I promise people that are watching this, there's so much more that we can talk to Ariane about. We'll get together again because obviously there's a wide world of things that we can continue to talk about. And we've just barely scratched the surface. So, folks, you've seen it. Ariane Cap, Music Theory for the Bass Player. You've seen it here on Bass Musician Magazine. Thanks
All right.
again.